This is CBC Here and Now.
Welcome to Here and Now. We begin tonight with an incredible rescue in Cedar Cove on the province's west coast. 20 crew members from the MSC Baltic 3 were lifted to safety Saturday during a snowstorm. So what happens to the grounded cargo vessel? Here and Now's Colleen Connors has more on the removal and cleanup.
A winter storm raging, 120-kilometer winds. This was the view Saturday morning, not far from Lark Harbour in the Bay of Islands.
Oh my goodness, I mean, just to see it, I mean, it was something like out of a movie that you wouldn't, normally see. And I mean, the sea state at the time was 7+ meters. So of course that was, the waves were just breaking up over this vessel, right?
Right away, Joyce and her husband jumped on their snowmobile and headed to the site. The Marine Communications and Traffic Services Centre had received a mayday. The cargo ship had lost power while waiting to get into port in nearby Corner Brook. Once the engine gave out, the massive ship ran aground. Joyce and others watched the tense rescue unfold. Over the next hour, crew members were airlifted off the stranded ship.
So once the search and rescue chopper got on site, I mean, it was no time and they took action. Hovered just above the ship there, and I think that they sent down, I think it was 4 men. And then shortly after, they start airlifting the men off. And I think there was 20 that they actually took off the ship. So it was, it was pretty amazing to see.
All were rescued safely. Now comes the next stage, salvaging the vessel. A Coast Guard crew from St. John's arrived late Saturday night. They've set up shop at the Coast Guard offices in Lark Harbour. Their biggest concern? Environmental hazards.
The vessel's propulsion fuel is diesel, marine diesel, and it's against the shoreline there now. Just came off of an overflight, and right now there's no oil or contaminants in the water that are visible.
It's not clear why the vessel lost power while heading from Montreal to Corner Brook, part of a weekly international container service.
This product is going, exported worldwide. So occasionally we do have smaller shipments of other goods, so fish, vehicles, industrial or agricultural supplies, but paper is by far the primary export.
English says it'll be a team effort to remove the ship and its contents.
The owners of the vessel are very much engaged. They've activated their arrangement with a response organisation, and here in Newfoundland and Labrador, that's Eastern Canada Response Corporation, so they're on site as well, and they're establishing their command posts, and they got other equipment rolling. There's a salvage company that has been activated, and they're en route to the scene as well.
Cedar Cove is a popular spot for tourists and locals to take in the epic ocean views. Today, onlookers tell me English and his crew were aboard the vessel, assessing the damage. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
Well, a man who terrorized women in St. John's over a decade ago is now suing the federal government. Convicted serial rapist Sofiane Boalag says he will never walk again, alleging prison staff left him to fend for himself during a vicious attack. Here Now's Ryan Cook has that story, but first a warning, some people may find the details of this story disturbing.
As a designated dangerous offender, there was always a possibility Sofiane Boalag would spend the rest of his life in prison. But now Boalag says that life nearly ended 2 years ago. Boalag was serving an indeterminate sentence at Atlantic Institution in Renews, New Brunswick, when, according to a new lawsuit, he was attacked from behind on February 3, 2023. Boalag says prison staff opened all the cells on his range simultaneously, and he was stabbed from behind while lining up for medication without supervision. His lawsuit alleges the man who did it had pre-indicators of violence towards him. He says staff failed to follow protocol by allowing several inmates at a time out of their cells and allowing a weapon into the prison. And he says they failed to get him medical treatment in a timely fashion. Boalag says the attack rendered him unable to walk for the rest of his life. Boalag terrorized Newfoundland and Labrador's capital city in 2012, attacking several women, raping some of them at knife point. He was convicted in 2016 for attacking 3 of his 6 accusers, and a judge slapped him with the dangerous offender status, meaning his prison sentence has no expiry date. I asked Bolag's lawyer about the extent of his paralysis, but she declined comment. The federal government, meanwhile, has yet to provide a statement of defense in court. Ryan Cook, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, a St. John's firefighter who was facing charges related to alleged sexual misconduct with a teenage girl will not face trial. Ronald Pomeroy, a captain in his early 50s, was accused of sexual assault and sexual exploitation. A judge dismissed both charges in provincial court today after prosecutors called no evidence. The prosecution says the judge's decision does not speak to the credibility of the complainant, but rather the legal criteria required for a conviction was not there. A spokesperson with the city confirms that Pomeroy remains a member of the fire department. Well, a big loan that is not being repaid, backstopping a pension plan, big investments of public money by successive governments, and now an energy deal that's pumping more cash into the Kruger-owned paper mill in Corner Brook. Here now's Terry Roberts reports.
The century-old newsprint mill in Corner Brook is struggling to stay afloat, and the provincial government, through its Crown-owned utility, is doing what it can to save the operation, including paying inflated prices to purchase electricity that it doesn't need. This is the hydroelectric station in Deer Lake, opened a century ago to supply power to the paper machines at the Kruger-owned mill in Corner Brook. Its cheap power is one of the reasons why the mill is still around, while many others across Canada have been dropping like flies over the past 2 decades as the global newsprint market shrinks. Well, now it's the backbone of a power purchase agreement that's helping prop up the mill, while owner Kruger explores ways to diversify its operations and secure a future for the business. Once again this winter, Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro is buying electricity from Deer Lake Power, and it's paying a premium, 27.5 cents per kilowatt hour. That's nearly twice the average domestic electricity rate on the island, which is 15.3 cents. So this is a lucrative contract for Kruger. The provincial government directed NL Hydro last year to enter into the contract, originally for 6 months, ending last July. During that time, Hydro paid $22 million to Kruger for electricity. Last fall, the government announced it was extending the contract for another 6 months. Same terms, millions more flowing to Kruger for unnecessary electricity. The extended contract expires next month, and no one is saying what comes next. The provincial government has defended the power deal, saying it will help stabilize the mill, its hundreds of workers, and the forestry industry during a challenging time. One of the conditions of the agreement was that Kruger look at ways to extract more value from its forest resource. A spokesperson for the company says a special task force is evaluating viable ideas for a diversification plan and requested an extension of the power deal while that process continues. Here's what the Premier had to say about the deal last year.
This isn't a forever agreement. This is a please help us understand how you're going to diversify.
The power purchase agreement is the latest attempt to save the Corner Brook mill by both Liberal and Progressive Conservative governments. In 2014, the PCs approved a $110 million loan for the mill, but the company made only a few payments, and the balance has now swelled to $122 million. The government has also invested tens of millions into the operation since 2010, and in 2017 provided a guarantee of up to $88 million for the company's pension plan deficit. Kruger employs about 425 workers on the West Coast and describes itself as a vital force in the region's economy. The question now is whether there's a future for the business and how much further the province is willing to go to support it. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the province is pressing pause on plans to change the junior high school curriculum. In a statement this afternoon, Education Minister Krista Lynn Howell says after receiving a lot of feedback from the school community, the province will not push forward with changes for the next school year. It's also extending its feedback window by a month to gather more public input. The department announced earlier this month that 14 schools would pilot curriculum changes come September, and that would have made some subjects like social studies, music, or French partially or completely optional. Well, Premier Andrew Furey says Donald Trump is attacking Canadians on two fronts. The U.S. president has been waging a global trade war and was repeatedly mentioning annexing Canada. And during his recent trip to Washington, Furey says he was warned to take both threats seriously.
Most people watching would think that annexation or dilution or relinquishing our sovereignty will come with military action. That's actually not usually how it happens since the turn of the century. There's usually economic conditions that force dilution of sovereignty or relinquishing sovereignty. And that is not an abstract, for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. 75 years ago, we gave up our sovereignty to join Canada. There was no tanks on Duckworth Street. There was no aircraft carriers in Placentia Bay. It was because of economic forces that we gave up our sovereignty and joined Canada. Proud to be a Canadian now, but you can see how we need to be attacking both issues, but they do unfortunately appear to be splitting into two separate issues, which causes me great concern.
And as tensions grow between Canada and the United States, many are pledging to boycott travel south of the border. And that has the provincial tourism industry making the pitch for people to visit Newfoundland and Labrador instead. The CBC's Elizabeth Whitten has that story.
Some are anticipating a busier tourism season this summer, as the threat of a tariff war with Canada's biggest trading partner looms. In an act of solidarity, many Canadians are ditching plans to travel south. A prime time for the province to make its pitch.
We do think that this does present another opportunity for us to showcase how welcoming and how wonderful Newfoundland and Labrador and St. John's is to the rest of Canada.
Bouguet says the province checks a lot of boxes travelers are looking for.
We are special, we're unique, we're safe, and we have a unique culture and people that are all our own. So I believe that we can be on the winning side of this throughout.
And Tourism Minister Steve Crocker says operators are already seeing interest from Canadian travelers, looking to keep their dollars close to home.
Ironically, we've also seen a bit of an uptake in the commentary from U.S. travelers who are looking at coming to Canada and looking at, in a sympathetic way, Canada as a destination.
Beyond tariff troubles, another factor, the decline of the dollar. It means travelers on both sides of the border could get more bang for their buck in Canada.
These are both factors right now that as a tourism destination that we need to be certainly ready and able to capitalize on.
New seasonal air routes could also bring European visitors.
It is a game changer, and we're looking forward to really leveraging the growth of those markets.
Crocker and Bouguet both say they don't want to alienate any American tourists coming to Canada this summer and plan to welcome all visitors with open arms.
We can't let political divide change how we are as people and known as a welcoming people.
And they shouldn't be counted out either. Crocker says Americans make up 14% of Newfoundland and Labrador's tourists, bringing in $150 million each year. Elizabeth Whitten, CBC News, St. John's.
The high cost of living, it creates a huge financial barrier. The only tryouts for Canada Games happen here in St. John's. So I think a lot of parents, community members scrambled to make sure that their children had equal opportunity.
Well, that's a parent from the North Coast speaking about the cost of traveling within the province. Well, Labrador athletes will now receive help with those expenses. The province is pledging to cover airfare for any athlete traveling to Happy Valley Goose Bay from the 6 North Coast communities of Nain, Hopedale, Natwashish, Postville, Makkovik, and Rigolette. Those traveling out of Goose Bay, Wabush, and Blanc-Sablon will have 75% of their airfare covered, as well as a portion of their gas mileage. The subsidies are for athletes 18 and under, those taking part in development camps, provincials, or Special Olympics, and there's also funding available for coaches.
Well, it's been very wintry across a good portion of the province for the last little bit. We're seeing some milder temperatures at play as well, but snow and blowing snow will continue for a good chunk of parts of Labrador and towards the coast. Blowing snow advisories as well as snowfall warnings for the northern peninsula, Green Bay, White Bay area. You can expect your snow to continue as we head through tonight along the south coast as well. We may even see some squalls possible over the next little bit. I'll break it down for you coming up a little later.
Okay, so some pretty intense weather on the West Coast. We saw at the top of the show with that rescue that happened in Cedar Cove. So yeah, some stormy weather out there.
Yeah, stormy weather, lots of snow as well for parts of the West Coast. Let's take a look at some of the numbers from your Thursday evening through to Sunday evening. So not including the snow that fell today, but Corner Brook downtown anyway. This is where this was measured, close to downtown. 39 centimeters of snow fell. Stephenville 27, Daniels Harbor picked up about 26 centimeters of snow, and Deer Lake picked up about 25. Now, we've been seeing some snow as well for parts of the Northern Peninsula and the Green Bay White Bay area, and you're going to continue to see some of that snow as we head through the night. Right now, we're up to 1 degree in St. John's. Most of the last couple of hours, we've been seeing some freezing drizzle. Those winds are out of the west now, 50, gusting 67 kilometers per hour, visibility down to about 4 kilometers at the airport. But if we take a look at the numbers today, like I said, we've been sitting generally below zero, and then finally now just in this last hour popped up above zero. That should be where we top out. We may see another degree or two, but things are going to get quite slushy out there. And then temperatures are going to drop. So you're going to definitely want to throw some salt down over the next little bit. A couple of warnings in place, snowfall warnings for the Northern Peninsula East and Green Bay White Bay area. And then we've got a blowing snow advisory for the Port of Basque area. And then a special weather statement in effect from St. John's all the way through to the Bay of Exploits. And that's because of high tide tonight. Just taking a look at some of the numbers, the buoy just outside of St. John's reporting a significant wave height of 4.8 meters and a max wave height of about 6.7. So no surprise that you can expect some elevated water levels, and that will be the story around high tide tonight and then to about midnight. And then that should end. Now, as far as what's going to happen tonight, we're still dealing with some gusty winds, especially along the northeast coast, along with that snow. That will continue, especially for areas like the Northern Peninsula East, like I mentioned, and then along the Green Bay White Bay area there, especially towards the coast. And then another area of low pressure just to the south, compact low is what we call these. That is going to drive some strong southwesterly winds and also the potential to see some snow and blowing snow around the Port of Basque area. You can pick up somewhere between 5 to 10 centimeters of snow. And then there's a potential for some squalls, pretty much from the Canaveral Peninsula and then for eastern Newfoundland as we head through the day tomorrow. We could potentially see those squalls. They may even reach the Bonavista Peninsula, depending on the winds, but definitely keep that in mind for tomorrow. And then we still have some wind and snow for coastal areas of Labrador through the day tomorrow as well. Now, we do see some milder marine air moving in, so temperatures are actually going to be hovering around the 0 degree mark or even a little bit above, which will bring those snowfall amounts down. But you're definitely still looking at that potential. By the time we get into the afternoon, those winds will shift to more northerly winds, and we should see the end of those squalls, especially from the Canaveral Peninsula east. But it does look like another round of flurries or light snow will move in through the evening and into the morning hours on Wednesday. So as far as snowfall amounts go, most of that snow through tomorrow morning, 10 to 15 centimeters, certainly possible for the Northern Peninsula East. South of Hare Bay, though, you could pick up much more than that. And then even more so as we head into Wednesday. So I'll just zoom the map in there a little bit, and you can see even along the Green Bay White Bay area on the north there, the north coast, you could see those amounts closer to 30 centimeters of snow. And then in the squalls, maybe 5 to 10 is certainly possible. Now, these amounts for the coast are definitely overdone because of the temperatures being so mild, but you still could pick up some significant snowfall. Temperatures tonight will sit into the minus single digits. So again, where you're seeing temperatures above zero, they are going to fall tonight. Things will get very slippery, very mild, relatively speaking, for Labrador, into the minus single digits. And then for as far as the rest of the forecast goes across the island, as far as those winds go, we're looking at those northwesterlies. They'll be gusting anywhere from 40 to as much as 50 kilometers per hour through the day. And again, that squall potential for the south coast of the island, where we could pick up somewhere between 5 to as much as 10 centimeters of snow. I'll have the long-range forecast coming up a little later.
Members of the LGBTQ community rallied in St. John's yesterday to call for more support for transgender people. This after U.S. President Donald Trump signed executive orders targeting the trans community, including banning trans women from women's sports. Rally organizers say anti-trans rhetoric is on the rise in this country, too.
Queer and trans people have been a profoundly useful scapegoat for the ruling class throughout history, and today, we find ourselves in the crosshairs once again.
Shame! Our local community really noticed a lot of rising bigotry, rising hate, and a lot of that is coming in from our neighbors to the south. And, you know, all the politics here trickle down, so we really wanted to show that we're resilient and that we won't be pushed down, that we're, you know, bigger than all of this hatred.
Mm-hmm. And tell me a bit about what you think about what Trump has been doing lately.
He can make as many bills as he wants saying we don't exist. It doesn't erase the fact that we still exist. He can't write us out of history. He can't write us out of existence. And that's why we're showing up here, to show people that we are still here.
And what about up here in Canada? Are you worried about any of that spilling over into our politics?
I mean, I think it absolutely already has. Pierre Poilievre has made several statements and several promises that have been very harmful to the queer community. And so we're really worried about that as well. We think it already has started trickling down, and we're here to fight back.
We already see it in provincial legislation, so you can see it within Saskatchewan and New Brunswick with students not being able to use their preferred pronouns until they're 16, and also banning of gender affirming care. So it's already happening in our provinces, and it's not something we can ignore any longer.
I came out here, I wanted to show my support. I wanted to help speak for those who are unable to speak for themselves, and mostly just support my trans solidarity. You know, as a trans person myself, it's good to, you know, stand with my people. I mean, the whole, I guess, elephant in the room with Donald Trump being elected, pushing a lot of bills against trans people. I'm scared for my friends that are in the States, honestly, and I just wanted to come out and show anyone I could that they're not alone, and that I will be here fighting for them, and that we will all be here fighting for them.
We are here. We are queer. We have always been here, and our resilience and our joy is what's going to get us through this hard time.
Well, you're looking at a live shot of the Parkway here outside our station in St. John's. Coming up in the next half hour, the other Atlantic provinces will be joining us for their Holiday Monday show. It's Family Day there. We'll have more weather and news coming up.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to a special Atlantic-wide edition of Here and Now. We want to welcome viewers in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and PEI who are celebrating the Family Day holiday there and are joining our local newscast. So let's get to some stories from your neck of the woods. A couple on Prince Edward Island says they're overwhelmed by support shown in the wake of a devastating fire on their farm. The Oliver Ohana farm is an animal sanctuary, and as Nicola McLeod reports, its owners are hoping they can rebuild.
It's every farmer's worst nightmare.
Emily Oliver is a volunteer firefighter herself, but that could not have prepared her for this. When the barn at her animal sanctuary caught fire last week, with animals trapped inside.
We have about 12 steps, and I don't think I took one step. I flew down, went outside, and I knew kind of right then and there that there was nothing really I could do.
Within minutes, the 83-year-old wooden barn was engulfed. They lost a horse, pigs, chickens, and a bull calf, animals that had all made major progress since arriving at the farm, which rescues abused and neglected animals, as well as pets surrendered due to the housing and affordability crisis.
You are not taught that in firefighting school. They don't tell you, I don't know, you're just not something you could prepare for, I guess.
The couple feels fortunate there was no wind that night, sparing the other structures around the barn. And Oliver is grateful for how the community has rallied around them, from her fellow firefighters who came to help to those who fundraised, plowing out their lane, and provided support.
It's been absolutely crazy to see the amount of support. That's going to kind of help us clean up. And the community definitely makes us want to rebuild and take in more animals. So I'm from away, but I feel like an islander these last few days.
Nicola McLeod, CBC News, Oysterbed Bridge, PEI.
Well, a 61-year-old woman from Florida was killed in Alma, New Brunswick this weekend after a snowmobile crash on Saturday afternoon. Police believe the woman was operating the vehicle when she missed a turn and collided with trees. There were no other passengers on board the snowmobile, and the woman died at the scene. And in other news, many New Brunswickers spent their holiday Monday with a shovel in hand. The winter storm brought about 15 centimeters to the Moncton area, as well as a layer of freezing rain. The CBC's Victoria Walton has more.
Residents of Moncton were bringing out all manner of tools to chip away at the ice left by Sunday night's storm. Shovels were cast aside in favor of sharp metal spades, even hammers.
It's horrible. There's a layer of ice you've got to get through, and the stuff underneath is frozen, so there's a lot of pick and shovel work going on.
The third Monday in February is Family Day in New Brunswick, meaning most have the day off work or school. But some started their holiday scraping off cars and trying to conquer the messy piles left at the end of their driveways by the plow.
We were going to shovel out the front where the plows kind of stuck us in, but we decided we were just going to go right over. So my husband put that thing in 4x4 and off we went.
Ray DeSorti's snowblower didn't cooperate with the ice, so he resorted to the old school method. But this mail carrier didn't mind. He's on vacation this week and says he found shoveling almost therapeutic.
No, I'll just take my sweet time, so that's the main thing. When you're not in a rush, this is nothing. This is like therapy. It is what it is. It's winter. I mean, we're Canadians. We're tough, eh?
A winter storm warning remains in effect for northern New Brunswick and the Acadian Peninsula, while Kent, Victoria, and Carleton counties and surrounding areas remain under a blowing snow advisory. Victoria Walton, CBC News, Moncton.
Well, sharp objects were needed to clear snow today in Halifax, too. And whether you use salt, sand, or kitty litter, residents were out sharing tips and tricks with the CBC's Molly McNaughton.
I got up this morning trying to chip away at the ice with my golf practice club because I have no ice pick. So I have no salt. I have no way to break the ice, so I'm using an old golf club. It's weighted. And it's got a good 3 or 4 pounds weight on the end of it, and it's proved quite effective at breaking up the ice. So if you can't get a nice pick of any sort, I recommend one of these.
Well, I shoveled already, so I mostly came out so the kids could build their fort, and I'm cleaning up some of the ice here.
We built a big snowman taller than my big sister.
January was really dry. It was cold, but there wasn't much to shovel, so we're sort of paying for it now.
And it's really icy. Do you have any salt or sand?
We have a little bit. I'm guarding it jealously.
We've used up most of our salt, but the last few days it's been too cold for it to really do anything, and yeah, so it's all right. I've heard kitty litter works great. We had people at church on Sunday say they were buying kitty litter because they live out in Prospect and they can't put salt on their driveway because of their well, and so they use kitty litter.
I did not know that.
Yeah, exactly. Good for everybody. Go buy kitty litter.
It's crazy. Actually, literally last week my girlfriend's car got written off because a car slid into it due to the weather in our neighborhood. It's all black ice and stuff, so it makes it hard to get to work and stuff. It's just been chaotic.
I am trying to stay ahead of the weather and get my driveway so I can leave. How do you feel about this year's weather?
I actually really like winter. It might be controversial, but I'd rather snow than rain and muck.
How long have you been out here this morning?
About an hour and a half.
How long do you think you have left of chipping away at this ice?
Probably the same amount of time I've already been out.
Oh, kitty litter, who knew? Well, here in Newfoundland and Labrador, snow and high winds left a group of grade 8 students from Oklahoma stranded in St. John's this weekend. They were diverted from Dublin and instead got a taste of Newfoundland hospitality. The group was offered sightseeing tours, got a personal curling lesson from an Olympic gold medalist, even a care package from the Premier.
I am the principal of Jinx Middle School, which is a suburb of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I'm here with this group of 8th grade students who are studying science and agriculture in Ireland. Well, our journey actually started on Wednesday the 12th. We left Tulsa Wednesday morning about 5 a.m. and we were delayed in Chicago, which actually made us miss our flight out of Newark on Wednesday evening. And so we spent the night Wednesday evening, and then we got on a plane and we were headed to Dublin on Thursday, and there was a medical emergency, so they turned around and we ended up in Newfoundland, which is nothing that we expected. So we went to several different places. We've seen some fishing villages. We went to the Rooms, which was a world-class museum. Our students were really excited about that. But these students got to try curling today, and they've never tried curling. It's not really a large sport where we're from in the southern part of the United States. So it's really, really fun.
You got to do curling with a gold medal Olympian. What are you feeling right now?
Excitement. It was really cool, and it was a lot harder than I thought.
Yeah, it was really cool and exciting. It was really hard to put that rock out.
Yeah, the first time I started doing it, I slipped on my side. It was really hard. It looked a lot easier than it is.
And did you guys know a lot about Newfoundland before coming here or ending up here accidentally?
No, I knew nothing about it.
I've watched the play, the Come From Away. That's the only thing I knew.
Yeah, I didn't know it existed. I didn't know it was here.
We're really looking at it as a bonus. We thought we were just going to get to go spend some time in Ireland, but we've been in Newfoundland, and now we're going to go to Ireland, and maybe we'll be able to tell the other students who are in Ireland. Half of our group did make it to Ireland, and so we'll be able to tell them about our experiences here. We are so impressed with the hospitality of the people here. Newfoundland is beautiful, and we thank everybody who has given us hospitality and have kind of housed us for the last 48 hours, and this will be something that these kids will remember the rest of their lives.
Well, a small group of patriots braved 110-kilometer-per-hour winds over the weekend to fly the red maple leaf for National Flag Day. Saturday marked the 60th anniversary of the Canadian flag. The impromptu rally was inspired by tensions over U.S. tariffs, threats of annexation, and a public letter from 5 former prime ministers last week urging Canadians to celebrate the flag and the country.
60 years ago, the maple leaf flag was made, and I'm out here outside the Confederation building with those who are celebrating. Let's see how they're braving the cold. You organized this today. What were you thinking when you made the post?
I'm not normally a get out and wave the flag kind of person, celebrate Canada Day, all that stuff, but just thought we'll just gather and wave the flag, and everybody's pretty upset and worried and angry too, so it's time to stand up and be counted if you can stand up in the wind.
It has to do with the Flag Day, with I guess showing solidarity with our country, that we stand united in the face of any threat to our sovereignty. We got some hot chocolate and some Timbits, and didn't know who was going to show up. But as you can see, there's a small but dedicated group here braving the winter weather, and it's all thanks, I'd say, to Krista, who impromptu put this on Facebook, and let's go. We had
What's your guys' favorite part about Canada? Anybody?
Newfoundland.
The weather. The people. That our country is headed towards a place where diversity is celebrated. That people who come to our country are new Canadians, are being embraced.
Land, glorious and free.
To Canada.
60 years of the flag. No better place to be.
Well, still in Newfoundland, Gould's Elementary held a special fundraiser last week. Donations collected during the annual event will stock food bank shelves for months to come. And not just that, they also provide a load of fun for the students. As you're about to see, teachers at the school didn't mind getting down and dirty to make it all happen.
So every year we collect food. We ask for donations from our community to help shelve the food bank in our local food bank to help out. So we took an initiative this year. We decided to come up with a little bit of a different theme this year than usual. We usually just ask for donations, but our team put our heads together in here, including with our principal, Ms. Cassell, and we came up with some fun initiatives to get the kids to want to participate. We're asking for kids to bring in any type of box of foods, like craft dinner, pasta, whatever they want to bring in. Had asked for 100 boxes today, and we got our total, and we have over 650 boxes. So our event will go ahead this afternoon, where our students, select students, will get to pie some of our teachers. 1, 2.
I pie teacher in the face because I just think it's really fun, and I think it's really awesome, and to get revenge on anything they've ever done to me.
It's all in good fun. The students absolutely love doing this, and it's all in order to help our food bank and to get food on the shelves and to go to families in need.
Very important and so very much needed. Winter months the shelves are at an all-time low during the winter months. After Christmas, people are not giving as much, understandably. And the food that we get during the winter months, of course, helps stock our shelves. And this food here will stock our shelves for a couple of months. Like, we have received so much that it will keep us going for a couple of months.
There's a bunch of families that don't have like foods for their kids or for themselves and stuff, so it's just helping them out.
1, 2.
Well, we are in the thick of winter, and that often comes with messy roads. Of course, that's true across all provinces in Canada. What different cities also have in common is the use of salt to deal with those road conditions. But is that really the best solution? Certainly not great for the environment. CBC's Johanna Wagstaff will have more on that later in the show. Natalie here with a look at the weather, and you have a lot on your plate today. Forecasting for all of the Atlantic provinces on this Family Day, not just Newfoundland and Labrador.
No, and this area of low pressure affecting all of us. So yeah, lots of weather on the go. Let's take a look at what's going on right now. We have an area of low pressure that is driving snow and blowing snow and winter storm conditions to a good chunk of the Maritime provinces, along with, like I said, windy conditions. And this area of low pressure bringing some milder air to parts of Newfoundland and Labrador, where we've been seeing some drizzle at times, even some freezing drizzle, and then still snow and blowing snow for the Northern Peninsula and even parts of southwestern Newfoundland. So Environment Canada has a blowing snow advisory for the Port aux Basques area, as well as a snowfall warning for the Northern Peninsula East and the Green Bay White Bay area. And then a special weather statement because of high tide tonight, higher than normal water levels expected to continue through midnight. Now, for the Maritime provinces, winter storm warnings, as well as some blowing snow advisories for New Brunswick, PEI, Nova Scotia, most of you seeing wind warnings right now, and then a winter storm warning for Cape Breton. That is expected to continue potentially, especially in the Highlands, upwards of Wednesday afternoon is the potential to see that snow. So kept keeping the wind on here for you for the next 24 hours just to show you what's going to happen. You can expect those winds to continue across most of the Maritime provinces as we head through the night tonight. And then we've got some gusty winds across parts of Newfoundland as well. Again, that snow continuing for the Northern Peninsula and the Green Bay White Bay area, as well as southwestern portions of Newfoundland. And most of you will see, especially for Cape Breton, continue to see that snow and blowing snow through tomorrow, really. And then eventually, by the time we get into tomorrow afternoon, those winds should go below warning criteria for the most part, with continuing to see some of the blowing snow and windy conditions for coastal areas of Labrador as well as the Northern Peninsula tomorrow afternoon. And the potential for some squalls maybe along the south coast of the island as well as we head into the afternoon hours. So as far as that snowfall amounts go, again, Cape Breton area seeing the most amount of snow. You could be seeing 30 to as much as 45 centimeters of snow. And again, in the Highland areas, even more than that. And then for the Northern Peninsula, you're looking at between 20 to 30 centimeters of snow in the highest amounts. Temperatures tomorrow are going to stay cold. So with those winds, looking at wind chills in the minus teens and 20s tomorrow for most of you in the Maritimes. And then we've got warmer air for the Northern Peninsula where you're hovering around 1 or 2 degrees, even parts of the West Coast seeing temperatures above zero, below zero though for the east. And then for Labrador, marine air moving in with temperatures between 1 and 2 degrees for most of the coast, even back towards Happy Valley, Goose Bay. In Lab City, you'll be sitting around -1. Now, as we look ahead to Wednesday, the weather certainly improving. Temperatures will be hovering around much warmer for those of you in the New Brunswick, even Nova Scotia area, seeing temperatures between 0 and +2. A little bit cooler for Nova Scotia, and then across the island as well. Marystown, you should sit around 4 degrees for your Wednesday. Taking a look at the long-range forecast, though, for St. John's and Eastern Newfoundland, we'll see a bit of a break by the time we get into Thursday with some sunshine, and then we drop in those temperatures, and we're looking at daytime highs sitting between -2 and -3 with the potential for flurries again, both Friday and Saturday. And then for central Newfoundland, you are looking at your temperatures above zero by Wednesday, continuing through Wednesday rather, dropping back down below zero, -1 to -4 as we head through the weekend. Again, the snow will continue for those of you in Western Newfoundland, not really seeing a whole lot of break in that, and temperatures will head back well below zero by the time we get into the weekend. And then for Labrador, you're looking at your temperatures cooling down as we get into the end of the weekend and then into the minus double digits for those of you in Western Labrador. Now, our weather photo of the day taken in where is that taken? Brigus. That's right. Great shot of the winter landscape there. Thank you so much for this, sharing this picture of the sunshine after the storm. Thanks to Greg. We'll have, great photo. Thank you.
manufactured trucks.
Well, a growing body of research shows road salt causes corrosion and isn't good for the environment. So with other options on the market, why are Canadian cities sticking with salt? The CBC's Johanna Wagstaff has more.
Are you wondering why cities are still using salt even after all the ruined boots, cars, bridges, impacts to ecosystems? The answer is it's cheap. Compared to alternatives, it costs next to nothing, and it works. Salt essentially lowers the freezing point of water by shoving in between water molecules to stop them from forming solid ice crystals. As long as there's at least a bit of water on the road and temperatures are above minus 15 degrees Celsius, some studies have shown salt has reduced car accidents by up to 88% during and after a snow event. But there are major drawbacks. Namely, salt is corrosive. Because salt molecules attract moisture, when it gets into metal, it speeds up the process of oxidization and things rust faster. Things like cars, trucks, concrete, bridges. It's even been cited as a cause for the crumbling infrastructure of Toronto's Gardiner Expressway. But the biggest issue is environmental. There is a growing body of research that has found when salt dissolves and washes away, it can accumulate in rivers and streams. Ultimately, those higher concentrations of chloride ions can be toxic to aquatic wildlife. And messing with ecosystems has huge potential consequences for our industries and for the environment. So why haven't we switched to something else, like sand? Many northern Canadian cities where temperatures are too cold for salt are already using a mix of fractured rock and sand. It works. And as a bonus, it can be scooped back up into a storage facility at the end of the season and reused again next year. Or how about beet brine? It isn't corrosive or toxic, smells great, and works to minus 20 degrees Celsius. There's also leftover vodka from distilleries, cheese brine, even tomato juice that have been experimented with, but it's just not as cheap as salt. In an average winter, Canadians drop 7 million tons of salt, and all those alternatives are 6 to 20 times as expensive as salt. At the end of the day, it really comes down to finding a balance. Many cities are experimenting with a beet or sand brine mixture, pre-wetting surfaces, and using just enough salt to keep roads safe while minimizing impact. So salt is probably here to stay. That is, until the day the cost of the corrosion outweighs the cost of the salt. And depending on how deep you go on secondary impacts, that's likely already happening.
Well, that's interesting. Or if you're in Halifax, you can use kitty litter, like what was suggested earlier in the show.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much to our viewers in the rest of Atlantic Canada for joining us tonight. Hope you had a wonderful family day. Your local newscasts will be back to normal tomorrow.
Good night.